Our orders: we are going to be flying the infantry into an abandoned village near the Cambodian border that the NVA are located in. The Air Force will see us gas the village area first, and everyone, infantry and flight crews, will be wearing gas masks during the attack. What? Gas masks? I haven't seen one of them since basic training. Neither did anyone else ordered to be in this obvious fiasco. Where the supply people dug up these gas masks, I have no idea. They were not anything like the ones we were trained on in basic training. Mine was a canvas mask with about a 2-foot-old rubber deteriorated tube coming out of the mouth area and into a tin can at the end. I tried it on and had difficulty getting the foul air into my lungs. I knew this whole idea was not going to work, and so did everyone else. If intelligence was such that the NVA were in this abandoned village, then just bomb the heck out of it with a B-52 strike. That would be too easy, and the infantry colonel who made this whole disaster up would not get credit unless his battalion were the guys going in the village like in a John Wayne BS movie. Of course, he and John Wayne would not be going. Senior officers did not involve themselves in the shooting war, and neither did movie stars. They might get killed, and sometimes by their own troops. And rightly so in this case. Our whole company was grumbling about this ludicrous scheme as we flew and picked up the 60 infantry that would be going on this easily foreseen disaster. The infantry were grumbling even louder than we. They had what looked like World War I gas masks on. We had a long flight to the target zone, and many of us found out that the gas masks' eyeglasses were fogging up, limiting our vision to straight ahead, which meant no peripheral vision, which is vital in combat. We reported this to whomever was in charge, figuring the whole operation would be called off. But no, we flew on with most of us taking off our gas masks so that we could breathe and see. As we approached the dilapidated village, we were told by our company commander flying high above to land on the dirt road in the middle of the village. We were ordered to land only 5 ships, helicopters at a time, as there was not room to land all 10 at once. We were ordered not to shoot for some reason. I was lucky enough to be on lead helicopter. Ha! As we came in at treetop level, all sorts of automatic weapons opened up on us. I started to return fire when I heard over the radio headset the order to pull out. Just then I heard a muffled explosion, and the helicopter shuddered and started to spin in a circle. I was dead, I thought, thinking ahead. My helicopter was going to crash in the middle of an enemy village. If I'm not killed in the crash, the enemy in strength in the village will certainly finish me off. The other infantry and helicopters will not be there to save us. I knew I would be killed sometime here. I gave myself up to that idea, but it would have been nice to live a little longer than 19 years old. My certain death still surprised me. Well, this is it. I thought about my family and about my life so far. I sort of relived my life. It was good, but oh well, I thought of all this in seconds. I was at peace, and then we crashed. I was still alive. This surprised me. We crashed on the road. The helicopter was still in good shape, considering our vertical fin and tail rotor were gone, as I found out later. We were getting shot at, and some infantry were getting hit. The rotor blades were still moving, but were high enough of the ground to crouch under them. I grabbed my M16 rifle and a bandolier of 10 full clips of ammo for it. I jumped off the helicopter and my head jerked back. I still had on my gas mask and had attached the canister to it to my gun post so that it would not fly around in the wind in flight. I took off the mask so I could see better and opened the AC's door so he could get out. Opening the AC's door was supposedly required during a crash, as the door was a hindrance for getting out of the helicopter fast. The same thing was required of the gunner on the pilot side. Everyone jumped into a water ditch next to the road. The NVA were shooting at us from across a field from the ditch, and some charged us from the tree line on the other side of the field. Some of us returned fire and some of the chargers fell. The rest ran back to the tree line. I figured that they would try and flank us and get behind us. We had some wounded in the ditch and some dead in the road. Our 2 gunships were machine gunning and rocketing the tree line across the field where the NVA were shooting at us from. One infantry sergeant sort of took control and shouted at the crew chiefs and gunners to get the machine guns and ammo for them off the helicopters. I knew the order was right, as in our predicament we would need the machine guns, but I didn't figure on living through the process as bullets were kicking up dust all around us. Also, my AC wanted my M16 and ammo for it. My gunner and I gave up our M16S and ammo to the pilots, and during a temporary lull in enemy fire due to the gunship passes, jumped up out of the ditch onto the road and pulled the disconnect pins from the machine gun mounts, unhitched the ammo cans, and dragged the machine guns and ammo cans back to the ditch, all the while thinking now I'm going to feel what it's like to get hit by a .30 caliber rifle bullet. My gunner and I both assumed we would be shot as we saw bullets hitting the ground next to us, but luckily we're not hit. The ditch we were all in was about 4 feet deep, and the water was about 3 feet deep in it. My gunner and I both tried to figure out the best way to shoot a machine gun with butterfly triggers on the ground and ammo cans underwater. Just then, a big lizard stuck its head out of the water between me and my gunner as to ask, "What is going on?" The lizard was a victim of circumstances same as we, and because of that I felt a kinship with the large lizard. The CS gas hindered our efforts to shoot, as none of us were wearing gas masks. It was probably hindering the NVA as well. Sporadic shooting was going on between us and the NVA across the fields of about 100 yards. A woman ran across the field screaming. No one shot her. Perhaps there was some gallantry in combat after all, but probably not. All of a sudden there was a loud buzzing noise, and all the leaves fell off the trees in the tree line across the field where the NVA seemed mostly to be. Then some more loud buzzing, and we could see 2 jet fighters zooming up into the air. We didn't know it at the time, but it was the jets shooting the 20mm cannons at the NVA. Then we all saw 2 more jets roll in from above, dropping some long tumbling canisters, and one of our guys shouted, "Get underwater!" I watched as the tree line and some of the field erupted in a huge fireball. I held my breath and went under the water in the ditch as I felt the heat hit my face. I could only hold my breath for so long and popped my head up to get some air. No air. We were all gasping for air. Apparently the napalm that the jets dropped sucked up all the oxygen in the area for a while. The oxygen eventually came back. My face was burnt, but not bad. My eyelashes and eyelid hairs were burnt off and my face was red. Now I was afraid of our jets more than the NVA. There was an infantry fellow who just got up without his helmet on and had no weapon and started to climb out of the ditch. My gunner and another guy grabbed him. The guy couldn't talk and seemed to have no idea where he was. I saw his eyes, and he was definitely somewhere else but here. We all wished we were somewhere else but here if we had time to think about it. But somehow psychologically he did it. He was somewhere else far, far away. He was here physically but not mentally. His eyes were focused on something far away but not here. On a dream, maybe. He was a casualty of our situation. I think I was too. As the whole situation hit me as something surreal. A dreamland episode of some sort. I was not functioning on a for-real basis, but in a dream. I had no idea of time. I still don't know how long we were in this situation. Hours, weeks, a lifetime, forever. I sometimes think that I was killed there, and everything that went on from there was on a different level, maybe on a different planet. Some sort of time warp that yet we do not understand. I never knew if the faraway guy ever came back to reality. Maybe I never came back in my own way. The sergeant was yelling, "Move down the ditch," so we all did, dragging the wounded and weapons with us. Our new position was in the same ditch, but we were about 60 yards away from our first spot. The faraway guy was still trying to walk away, so some guys had to keep an eye on him. I even had to grab him to stop him from just walking away. He gave no resistance. He was just lost in his head. Then mortars were hitting where we used to be. I guess the sergeant knew what he was doing. The NVA were still out there. I started to cover the sparse woodland that was behind us with my machine gun. I still figured the NVA would outflank us and come up behind us. I know that is what I would do if I were them. I certainly was not the confident guy flying around behind the machine gun. I was not confident at all. I was out of my element. There was something about being on the ground that was more confusing, terrorizing, and deadly than flying. I was scared but not completely dysfunctional. I was one step away mentally from the guy who got lost in his mind. He was right next to me. He became my responsibility. I understood where he went. I was just about there myself. Suddenly, an empty helicopter from our company came flying in at treetop level about 100 miles per hour and landed right in front of the ditch. The sergeant yelled air crews and wounded out first. I was more or less assigned to the lost guy, so the sergeant told me to get on the helicopter and make sure he doesn't fall out. The AC, who I knew and was a very brave guy, was hunched down in his armored seat and kept saying, "Hurry the up, hurry the up." It was sort of funny to hear him and see him like that, but we were receiving fire. I held on to the lost guy and was, along with the wounded, one of the first guys out of there. Eventually all our wounded and everyone else would get out of there safely. Jeez.